Good morning, and thanks for watching. If you tuned into my last video, then you heard me talk about three things that as an independent insurance agent, you must have in order to be successful, especially that you might not know about making the transition from being a captive agent to an independent agent. Now, what I talked about those three things was number one was access to carriers. That was the obvious one that most people know about, but they really don't know what it means to be able to go and get access to those carriers. The second one that we talked about was technology, having the right technology platform in place in your agency to handle your needs is key and essential to your future success. The third thing is back office procedures that you didn't have to have whenever you were a captive agent before, because the carrier took care of a lot of those things for you. Those are the three things. Today we're going to talk about carrier access. Carrier access can be a little tricky. One of the things that we find is that most on the personal insurance side, so you have to divide it up into two pieces. On the personal insurance side, there's typically about 5 carriers or your go-to carriers, and you'll have another list of carriers that you're going to go to for those weird risks that you got to find a way to place. And then you have the commercial side. So right now we're going to talk about personal insurance carriers and getting appointed with the right personal insurance carrier. What we find is that most agencies have like a top 5 carriers that they do business with. In Agents Alliance, we see this happen very consistently. The top 2 or 3 carriers are usually Progressive, Travelers, and Safeco. Progressive, Travelers, and Safeco, not necessarily in that order. They switch back and forth between agencies depending on the profile of the business that you write. Progressive also includes the ASI business, which is their homeowners product. Travelers and Safeco, they kind of run neck and neck. They offer products that are somewhat similar to each other in benefit and in quality of the product, and the companies are somewhat similar. So more of your preferred type business is going to end up landing at Travelers or Safeco. That's typically where those things land. And they're typically competitive most of the time. Behind those 3 carriers, in Agents Alliance at least, lies State Auto and Nationwide. They fall in there pretty close. And then you'll have a few others like Mercury Insurance or MetLife, Allstate, and a few others that fall in back there. But typically there's 5 that you go to. You need to select what your top 5 carriers are going to be, and those are the ones that you want to try to feed the most, because you want to build your biggest book with those carriers. Now, here's the problem. When you do this as a captive agent, trying to go independent, you reach out to Travelers, you reach out to Safeco, and if they give you an appointment, it's going to be 3 months to 6 months before you have all the switches turned on, and you'll be able to write business with that company. Progressive typically goes a little sooner. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of applications. There's a lot of things that you have to know that you probably don't even know today. Like, you need to be operating as a licensed business entity before you can get an appointment with Travelers and Safeco. They're going to require those things. Some of the carriers out there require that you have a physical office location. Some do not. Knowing those things gets you far ahead. When you join a group like Agents Alliance, here at Agents Alliance, what we do for our members is we make sure that you get that access set up, and we do all the back and forth. We do all the paperwork. We do all the follow-up. We work with you on developing a business plan, which these carriers are going to require. We work with you on your office location to make sure it meets their minimum requirements for the ones that require an office. We work to make sure that your business entity is set up properly, that it's properly licensed. So that way it smooths up and it shortens the time frame of getting those carriers set up. So it's very important to make sure that those things are done correctly to get your carrier set up so that you have access to the ones you need when you need that access. So after you get through that top 5 carriers, you have another list of carriers that they're not necessarily hard to get to, but they're not easy to get to. But they're things that you're going to need. For example, we've got a carrier that likes to write mobile homes. Matter of fact, they like to write mobile homes that are on the coast. So anything along the coast of Texas, they'll pick up a mobile home. That thing can be on stilts overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, and they'll still write coverage on that. Most carriers won't, because the risk on that is very, very high. So having access to those carriers are important. Now, once you get down the road, those carriers all have some minimum requirements. When you do this on your own, the minimum requirements for carriers are usually much higher. Travelers and Safeco still carry some minimum activity and production requirements for us as a member of Agents Alliance, but they're typically somewhat lower. You're a little bit insulated from that. We work with the carrier reps, we work with the companies to make sure that we keep you informed, to make sure that you're not ever in jeopardy of losing your agreement with those companies. So we work with you to help make sure those things are done and done right. That's part of the benefit of doing business with an aggregator or someone to be your guide and help you down this road and through this process. So on the personal insurance side, you're going to need your top 5, 6 carriers that you're going to do business with. And typically what we see is about 50% of an agency's business lands with those top 5 carriers. Another 25% of the business, or actually 50% of it's probably going to land with the top 3 or 4 carriers. Another 25% of the business is going to land with the next 3 or 4 carriers. And then the bottom 25% of that business that you write is going to land with those one-off carriers. That's a mobile home out in the middle of nowhere. It's a ranchette, a small farm and ranch type deal that's too far from a fire station to qualify for one of your preferred carriers. Or it's going to be someone that has a pretty long claims history that a preferred carrier doesn't want to insure that person, and you need to place them out here with someone else until they get healed up, and then it would requalify for a carrier like a Travelers or a Safeco. Having all those carriers is extremely vital in getting your agency up and going. And getting them sooner is more important than anything at this point, because the last thing you want to do is leave your captive carrier, try to go independent, and then have a 6 or 8 month window of time where you don't have access to all the carriers that you need. That's one of the biggest benefits of working with an aggregator is they will walk you through that process. They will hold your hand. You will get access to a group of carriers quickly, and they will make sure that you get the right access to the right carriers at the right times. Everything is set up and ready to go. So if you want some help getting access to the right carriers, please reach out to us, Agents Alliance. We are here to help. My name is Greg McGuffin. In my bio below, there's a link to my calendar. Click that link. Select a time that's convenient for you. It'll place time on my calendar. It'll schedule a Zoom meeting. The two of us can jump on a Zoom meeting. We can visit. We can talk. And I'll advise you on everything that I know. There's no commitment, no obligation. We would obviously love for you to join Agents Alliance. But if you just want to learn, click on the link, schedule a time. I will share with you everything that I can think of to share with you about what you need to make sure you have in place to go independent.